And we are live. Welcome to the Listen to This
Hey.
Bull live show. My name is Matthew Mulhall. That is Sarah Parker. Sarah Parker is my co-host today. Hi, Sarah.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the Listen to This Bull podcast.
Today we are talking about the future of claims. The future.
Dun,
Every time I
dun,
think about
dun.
the future, I think about the year 2000. For some reason. Oh, that's the wrong thing. I have to push this button.
Well, thank you, everyone, for joining us.
So, we're going to talk about the future of claims and all the fun stuff that goes with it. Sarah's the perfect co-host for this episode because she's all involved with half of this stuff, which is cool. So you're basically a guest and a co-host, which is cool. I
Nice.
also got someone else in the wings.
Who is it?
I think you know him better than I do. I'm going to let you introduce this guy.
All right, everyone. Joining us is Tom Sulzman from Loveland Innovations.
Loveland Innovations is not a dating app, by the way.
Hey, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Sarah. Hey, Matthew. Great to be here.
Wonderful to have you. I've wanted to do this for so long, everyone, just so you know, audience. Like,
yeah.
Tom is amazing. I love Loveland. Let's get to it.
You love Loveland?
I love Loveland. I love Loveland.
Right. That'd be hard to say 5 times fast. Yeah. So, real quick, background on what Loveland Innovation is. Tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, so Loveland Innovations is a software program. And the software is both web-based, cloud-based, and iOS application that connects with enterprise-level DJI drones. And it performs an inspection of a property's roof. And it has artificial intelligence that detects the potential damages on that roof, which we call anomalies within the image itself. And it allows you to put together a comprehensive report that you can turn into an insurance carrier as a proof of loss on behalf of that homeowner. That would allow the claim process to be quicker and easier for the contractor.
Okay.
And public adjusters and attorneys, you need to pay attention. This is a wonderful tool for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, it helps everyone shorten their time. You know, typical inspections, 45 minutes to an hour. And with the drone, it's 10 to 15 minutes at most.
Mm-hmm. And the safety aspect for me is a big one too. I mean, how many times a year do we see like a GoFundMe or something like that for, you know, an adjuster or a contractor that's fallen through a roof and they're injured, or, you know, sometimes it's worse than that. But the safety aspect I love too. I mean,
right.
Especially like, you know, church claims. Oh, being able to fly a drone for that is so nice. So, yeah.
Safety was the main purpose that Jim Loveland, which is the name of the company, was created for. His father started Xactimate, and he ran it for 17 years and then created this to extend the life of an adjuster was his initial purpose, so that, you know, age out of the system.
Yeah.
So his father starts Xactimate. Everyone's like, what are you going to do? Because your father's awesome. You're living in his shadow. Dude's like, hold my beer.
Exactly.
Let me get AI in the mix. Yeah, just wait.
Yeah. Xactimate's great and all, but my shit keeps people from dying. Loveland Innovations made me think of the old Xactimate. Lovelands were going to create a better estimate system than Verisk runs. By the way, I didn't tell you this, Tom, but this is a show where we let the audience run the show. They ask us questions live, and we answer them. So we're going to try to stay on topic, but it depends on where the audience takes us. They can ask us anything they want.
And Tom is as big of a nerd as I am with the AI and the tech. So, I mean, let us know. What do you guys want to know? See, one of the comments, Loveland Innovations made me think the old Xactimate Lovelands were going to create a better estimate system than Verisk runs. I'm not quite sure what that comment means, but I can say
I don't either. That was a weird one. It sounded better in my head before I posted it.
The anomaly mapping software is really nice because you can use it for estimating. It's really helpful. So it doesn't estimate itself, but it's a great data source for estimating. It's really nice.
Yeah, it'll connect directly with the Xactimate system. So you can send any of those data points into that system, pull it open, and create your list of line items, and then just apply your macro to it. Your sketch will be imported and everything as well.
It's really nice.
Your anomaly report will go straight into Xactimate. Is that what you just said?
Yeah, you can choose what you want to pull in there, such as your sketch, which is something that takes a lot of time. And then it also extracts each facet, all the different lengths and the items for that, and pulls it in as the line items so that you can apply your macro and create that estimate off of the materials.
Huh.
It's pretty cool. It's really cool. And this next question,
yes.
Tom,
so what kind of anomalies does it detect? Does it detect like shrubbery on roofs?
Yeah, that would be fallen. Yeah, debris is what that anomaly would be called. But it'll find soft metal damage. It'll find hail hits, creases, missing shingles, torn shingles, cracked tiles, exposed underlayment, loose material. So if a tile shifts down a little bit, but it's still staying on there, it'll find that shift to know, you don't want to walk on that because you'll slide right down. And it'll also find other anomalies that you can label on it, such as animal damage.
Does it categorize those itself, or does it just list it as an anomaly and allow you to categorize it?
You can categorize it yourself if you feel that the list that it created is incorrect. You can change that for the correct type of anomaly, but it will list it itself based on the programming that it has from the models. So the way the programming works is we have 48 carriers that utilize the product. We have PAs, IAs, and then, of course, contractors. And everybody is confirming or denying these anomalies, changing them out. And the system will look for that displacement in the pixels. And when it sees the same displacement confirmed 1,000 times, it'll learn from that. That's what the deep learning technology is, so that it'll find that same type of anomaly next time. We have 680 million square feet in the 7.5 years we've been out that have been flown and scanned and identified.
So does that, if we're talking AI, does all of the data, let's say I'm using this technology for my claims, and is that actually being used as added to the data set to further train the AI?
Yes, the data is owned by the user, so we don't own it, we don't share it, we don't reuse images, but it is never deleted, even if an account leaves us, so that the integrity of that data set, the system learning, stays intact.
And at some point, we will give everyone, I can do that, I'll volunteer for it, a crash course in what AI is, how it's made, all of that. It's a lot simpler than you think.
I have some very specific questions suddenly. If it detects a shifted shingle that has slid down necessarily, and I just violated my own rule by saying slid down, what does it categorize that as? Is it
loose material?
Loose. It categorizes it as loose.
Loose material.
Huh.
And the nice thing is because it was flown with the drone, you have very, very, very clear pictures to go with it. So it's not like, some of the tools that we use, you get like a set of data that on its own could be quite subjective. But this comes with just wonderful imagery. So it's slightly more objective tool on its own. And then when you add other data to it, it's awesome.
Right, it's because it's a third-party AI rather than your eyes, their eyes. And because it's the enterprise model drones, they're 20 megapixels to 48 megapixels, and it's lossless images. So we're not compressing those images when they go into the system. which gives you the ability to zoom into that image, and depending on the wind speed, when the image was taken, of course, you'll get a nice clear picture up close. But you also have to think about it. If you snap the picture when a wind gust comes through and it shakes the drone in the middle picture, you're going to want to snap that picture again.
Right.
So you can't just use any drone you want. There's a specific drone you got to use for this.
Yeah, the enterprise model drone is what the model was built off of for the actual AI, but you can use our handheld mode, which allows you to take pictures with your smartphone and analyze them for like siding, window frames, doors, and find the soft metal damage or the imperfections in those from a storm.
So you could actually do sighting with this as well using your phone. And that
Correct.
also integrates into Xactimate?
So those images, if you were to pull those over, you would want to download those into a file and then send them in. The way the Xactimate pulls over is from the 3D model that the drone sliced and put together, and the measurements that come off of that 3D model from the team. It's down to 1 inch in accuracy for the measurements.
That's fascinating. Does is it siloed to like a specific technology in mobile phones, like the LiDAR technology that's available in some iPhones but not others?
No, with the phones, it's just the capturing of the image. LiDAR might be on the roadmap as a future, integration, but for right now, it's just to take that image and put it in as that data point for it to analyze.
That's awesome. I'm looking forward to testing it out a lot more this summer. I have not tried the handheld method, so that'll be kind of cool to see too. So we got some good questions in here, guys. Thank you.
I need to pull up some of these questions real quick. Just getting a little bit behind. I got a little sidetracked when he started talking about slide out, and I'm like, oh shit, things might be real here. Neck Tattoo's in the house. Neck Tattoo bought in. Is this a public company?
No, he probably.
I think he used it. Like
bought in. Oh, okay. He used it. All right.
Yeah, privately funded.
How do we go all in on AI and tech?
It's a big question, Christopher.
Yeah. I mean,
we'll be here all night.
What are the pros and cons? What costs do we need to anticipate on a per claim basis if we utilize Love? Let's go with that last question. Yeah. What costs do we need to anticipate on a per claim basis if we utilize Loveland?
So you can calculate it 2 different ways, depending on how you want to take that data and put into context. So for the software itself, it's $47.99 for the entire year. And then we have discounts depending on the shingle manufacturer that you're associated with based on their subsidized programs that they have with us. But the full price would be that $47.99. It's unlimited scans. So you would want to take the number of inspections that you perform, divide it out by that price over the year to determine a fixed cost per inspection based on that. The measurement reports, their retail price is $44, and that includes the inspection grade 3D model that allows you to measure things like stack collars, skylights from the model itself, and it provides you a 360-degree view of the property so you can take a look at the different angles and do area measurements as well. And that includes that Xactimate. I would call it communication because I wouldn't call it a download file because it directly talks back and forth with Xactimate as opposed to downloading a file and uploading it. So it includes that, which sends the sketch image over as well as those material list line items.
So like a direct
this isn't
integration.
Something where someone is going to draw over the image themselves. The sketch is populated for you.
Right. It's populated by our team. We have a team that's in place
In-house.
that specifically, in-house that measures the 3D model so that it's as accurate as possible. And the beauty of the drone is it's
exteriors as well. Do you do the walls?
Just the roof for right now. As the drones get smarter or as people get better at flying drones, that's a future item that's on the roadmap. Because to build a 3D model that's perfect for the walls, you need to be a little bit lower in height. And right now we have the drone flying over the property so that it clears all the trees and potential obstacles. But
you guys need to hire dwarves.
Right. You're able to hybrid it where you can manually take over the flight, drop it down and get those oblique angles. And that will create a nice
Where's
clean model
Remington?
on the sides. Did I lose
That is
my mic out? No.
That's
I missed
not
it.
you. That's Matt.
Okay.
The opinions voiced here on this podcast today are not necessarily those of the Listen to This Bull podcast. Disclaimer.
You guys should be very inclusive of who you hire. What are you talking about?
Well, I think there's a different term if you want to be PC about it. So, next
Insurance
question.
companies are using AI, totally creating a large database, and soon will be apps doing your claim. I hope not.
Yeah, I
It's
wrote an
entirely
article about
possible.
this.
Let's go back to this question and hit that pros and cons question. Are there pros and cons? Forget about Loveland for a second, because Sarah's on this thing as a guest also, not just as a co-host. She does both hats so well. Although I don't think you wear a hat very well with that hair.
No, never.
No. AI in general. I know Kuva Media is really digging into AI and all the fun stuff that goes along with that. Do you want to talk about Kuva Media just yet?
Yeah, sure. So I started a media company, and that's actually my professional background. So people always want to know about me because they're like, "Where did you come from?" My background is in high-end public relations. I grew up in my mother's public relations firm. So I have a lot of experience in publishing and broadcast, like just a lot of stuff, right? And another thing is coding. So I've been coding since I was 16. So I love technology. And when I started my public adjusting firm, I really had a hard time finding a marketing company that wasn't totally shady, right? I think the audience can relate. And I was working on my business and in my business, so I didn't have time to actually do the marketing myself. So I just ended up building my own team, and then it turned into a company because people were like, "Hey, can we hire your team?" It's like, sure. So, but it's morphed into something a lot more than I thought, and I get to do all the tech stuff I've always wanted to do. I have a great dev team, and so I create AI, I do development, we can do apps, all kinds of things. So I've really, really delved into the ethics of AI. I've been following it very, very closely. There's new lawsuits emerging. It's quite fascinating. And so there's a lot of pros and cons. I would say in this conversation in general, the question is not, is AI bad or good? It's how are we going to participate to steer this properly and be good stewards for the future? It's here. There's nothing we can do about it. This is as revolutionary as the telephone, as railways, and kind of what's going on right now is most of the commercially available AI, even if it's forked through, to use geek speak, it is forked through a lot of different companies, but really at the top, there's like 2 or 3 AI companies that have created the base AI that everyone then trains from there. And I'll explain how AI is made in a bit. But the issue with that is that kind of gets us into a Standard Oil. So this is getting into history. Audience, does anyone know what Standard Oil is?
I don't know, but we sound like this is going to be a forked conversation.
All right. So Standard Oil was a company owned by the Rockefellers in the late 1800s, early 1900s.
Did they have AI back then?
They did not. But here's how I'm going to explain that anything in the future, all we need to do is but look to the past for our roadmap. Because humans are immutable. We don't change. Our reactions to things never change, even if something
really
is new.
I'm really curious how this is going to be able to be
how Standard Oil in 18 whatever links to AI. Yeah, I'll get you there. Yeah. We'll get there.
This will be interesting.
So essentially what happened is Standard Oil, so Mr. Rockefeller started this company and he started buying up all the other little companies and all of that. Anyways, he had a complete stranglehold over the oil industry. And that gave birth to the US antitrust laws. because they're like, hey, wait a minute, you're starving people out, you're price fixing, you're an oligarch through commerce. So we can't have this. That's what gave birth to antitrust laws, was because of Standard Oil. So because AI is only owned by 2 or 3 companies, we have a Standard Oil situation right now. That's why it's our responsibility to learn about AI and participate in it. There is open source AI that it was actually announced this week and a couple weeks ago. So it is changing quickly. But I encourage the audience, you need to learn about it now. Get your kids, your children should be learning something called prompt building. Your children should be learning coding. That's going to give them job security for the future and give them a chance in participating in this perhaps 4th industrial revolution, who knows. So with AI and claims now, the same kind of Standard Oil thing is happening, where it's a few companies. Loveland is a player. There's a couple of others. And there's other applications for AI aside from drones as well. So again, the best thing you can do is start to learn about AI, because it's not bad. It's learning, just like anything else, the variables involved in it.
I mean, babies aren't bad, but sometimes toddlers are.
I can link that to AI. All right. So I don't know what that meant, but this will launch us into explaining how AI is made. So so for the audience, this is a kind of a topic that people are like, I'm never going to learn this. Yes, you can. You can learn anything. Just TED Talk for a moment. You in that chair, you can learn anything. It's just learning the building blocks, just like physics, just like math, 1 + 1, 1 × 1. So don't ever think you can't learn something. So this is how AI is made. You take a data set, and a data set is just like, let's say you printed out if you're a contractor, you printed out your jobs on a spreadsheet with all the, custom fields. As a public adjuster or an attorney, you printed out all of your claims or your matters on a spreadsheet. That's a data set. It's got the claim number, it's got the location. That's what a data set is. You take that data set and you give it to AI. Now, AI, I think one thing we need to be very careful of is humanizing it. It's not alive. It's not a thing. It's not human. It's 1s and 0s. Remember, all computers are 1s and 0s at the end of the day. It's binary. So it's not alive. So don't humanize it. But it has enough ability to learn that you can give it this data set, and then you give it training hours. And then you kind of teach it. So it's like if you have a new employee that's on the job, you hand them an SOP, a standard operating procedure. And you're like, this is how you work the cash register. This is how you greet a customer, right? This is how you cash out at the end of the day and count the money. And when they make a mistake, you say, oh, hold on, this is how we do it the right way. You do that with AI, essentially. So then the AI learns.
Humanize the cashier.
Mm-hmm. So the AI kind of learns then, because you're giving it, oh, nope, AI, you don't want to do that. You want to do this. And then it goes, oh, okay. And then just like a human, in a way, that cashier starts to be able to, do extra things that are better for customer service that you didn't think of as the supervisor. And then that's what AI can do too, where it goes, hey, human, I found out this variable that you might not have thought of based on the data set you gave me. So that's kind of how this works. You're right there, Matt.
What kind of cool stuff has the Loveland Innovations AI taught you about the anomalies that you guys have been finding? Do you know?
Improper installation is kind of neat to look at. Flashing defects, where it sees that the flashing was improperly installed, or the ridge cap didn't have the correct, exposure. Those are some interesting, data points. It finds the smaller hail. One of the things that I love to talk about is when you're picking up a hail hit, a lot of times something that is considered a blister, right? It'll pick up as a hail hit. But if you dive deep into that portion of the conversation, a blister, just like a blister on a finger, is a water molecule that was put into the manufacturing process. And this molecule has heated up and created steam, which caused the blister. But the blister doesn't pop open and expose the matting unless it's enacted upon from an external force, such as hail. So you can use that as your argument. The AI has found this is a hail hit. The insurance carrier might be saying, well, that's blisters. Well, a blister doesn't pop open until it's hit with that piece of hail that has popped that blister.
All right. I don't know if that's true. Are you saying that your AI actually taught you that that's true?
I'm just saying
that the AI can find it. So the AI marks it.
AI finds the hail
yeah,
a quarter inch or greater. A lot of times a quarter-inch hail hit might be a blister.
That does sound like some stuff that a roofer would say, though. For my audience sake, I would like to say I disagree with that statement. Blisters that are a water molecule, they do expand. And every time that there is a heating and contracting cycle, it will expand a little bit more. And it will actually bring in additional air as it expands, and it creates a vacuum, and it cools, and it shrinks a little bit less, and it expands, and it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. It's a little bit more apparent on a low slope roof, where it's this big bubble underneath and in between layers. It will eventually rupture itself. It's inevitable. It can't not rupture itself. It gets to the point where it does, because the asphalt above it is also shrinking as it ages. It will eventually rupture itself. It can't not. It can also be ruptured by hail. And I think that's what Tom was really pointing out, but it doesn't necessarily have to have that outside force in order to be ruptured. I want to make sure that the roofers that are watching this, and we get a lot of them, aren't going to go off and say that it has to have hail in order to be ruptured, because I know a lot of them that do say that. That is just not true.
The opinions are of the people, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, yeah. I do. We will say that Tom is our guest this evening, and any of his opinions are not necessarily those of Loveland Innovations. It's him as a professional sharing his experience, as he has a lot of experience. But,
if your AI did discover that was true, I would be very, very intrigued and would want to learn about it. I am open-minded.
But I think the AI doesn't offer an opinion. The opinion was Tom, so that it doesn't offer an opinion. So that is one delineation of AI that people need to definitely. There's a litigation question that actually this would be great for. There's AI that collects data and analyzes data and will aggregate data and categorize it. And then there's AI that will do what's called sentiment analysis, where it actually forms an opinion based on the data set that it's fed. So those are two different things. So Loveland is definitely a tool to gather data rather than it telling you, what it is, right? So is that accurate, Tom? I don't want to be speaking for, I'm like over here speaking for your company.
No, you're perfect, because if you're inspecting a roof and you have,
it's always nice to hear that, isn't it, Sarah? You're perfect.
That indicates, the collateral damage indicates half-inch hail hit, for example, and then you have the half-inch hail hit that you clearly see from the granule displacement on the roof. But then you have some items that you would say, in your opinion, is a blister, but it corresponds with the size of the hail that hit. Is that truly a blister, or was that has already expanded and opened based on the age of the roof, or was that something that was enacted upon by an external force that caused it to open the same size as the hail damage on the rest of the roof?
And that's where the humans come in.
That's where the humans come in. That's why the AI requires you to confirm or deny those damages based on your human experience, which trains it to find those anomalies quicker and more extensively in the future. But we still require you to confirm and deny them for the specific purpose of quality of findings.
So it can be helpful. It's not telling you like exactly what happened, but it's telling you what damage might have occurred, but not necessarily the peril itself.
Yes,
and then you might need weather data. You might need additional data. This is not a standalone, just like any tool. It's a tool. You don't just use one tool.
1 year weather history built into the system on the address, and we also coincide Twitter and Facebook feeds besides the radar data, so that you can see what people were saying within a 5-mile radius of the address. Like, hey, there's half-inch hail on the ground everywhere, and that helps to back up what the radar has shown.
There's actually a national weather spotting program that the public can join after training for free with the NOAA.
Nice.
Where that Twitter and Facebook data comes from. It's from trained volunteer spotters. And anyone in the public, as long as you take the training course that is free, can become a trained weather spotter. Now, I'm not saying everyone go rush and do that. You need to take it seriously.
It is a good course. My wife went through that. So any of the data that the AI has is based off of the machine learning programs that you've put it through. And you're calling it deep learning. It's machine learning programs and different things, different algorithms you put it through, and it's going through. And I've learned different things since developing the hail gun, having my hail cannon, and firing different things. I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot about the fact that most of the stuff that we think we know about hail is bullshit. And we're putting information into these and saying that something is or isn't hail based on some assumptions that we already have. So we're actually probably making a lot of the calls on whether something is hail based on different sizes and things and considerations. One of the things that was most surprising to me that I learned the very first day that I started playing with this hail gun is that I can shoot the same size hail out of this at the same shingle and get completely different size hail impact marks with the same size hail at the same speed over and over and over again. So you mentioned the same size marks, and you're saying it doesn't correlate with the size hail. That doesn't mean shit.
There's too many variables. There's
way too many variables. You have to have 1,000 confirmations of the same pixel anomaly within that image for it to learn as being a hail hit from people that are laying their eyes on it. Because there is different density of the hail, there's different wind speed, different shapes of it, the position of the roof compared to the storm, that you can't have a system that's 100% perfect. We put a confidence slider in our system, and that confidence slider allows you to be more confident in what the AI finds, which is a lot less hits on a facet of the roof than when you're less confident. So it's providing you a tool as a secondary, third-party AI that is finding these anomalies so that you, the expert, can lay your eyes on them without having to climb all over the roof and change your clothes 3 times a day and double or triple your inspection rate, throughout the day by utilizing this as just another tool in your toolbox.
Miguel asked if I could use the hail cannon against the adjusters, and unfortunately, I can't reload it fast enough, and it would really hurt them.
Also, everyone, the Listen to This Bull podcast does not advocate for physical violence in dispute resolution, for the record.
And actually, we are working towards utilizing it to be able to prove that the markings that are on the roofs, because we can take this on the roof and we can fire the same size hail at the same angle that the hail fell on that roof, at that very roof, and see what kind of damage it creates on that very roof, and see if it matches the damage that's on that roof. And we're working towards calibrating it to be able to do exactly that. So, Miguel, I'm working towards it. Probably about 6 months before it'll be ready with enough data to back up the fact that it is accurate enough to be able to do so. But give me time.
And if anyone knows about scientific testing, especially even with the materials that we're actually replacing, right, with shingles, manufacturers have very rigorous testing. Whenever they do, it's not physical violence, it's just mechanical damage. No. Wow. That's great. I will say our industry, it's a lot of fun. I love you guys. This is great. But If anyone knows about scientific testing, especially when manufacturers are actually making materials, they have to have laboratories that cost millions of dollars that have as many standardized or removed variables as possible, to be able to make objective thresholds of how their materials should perform. Now, the problem is the reason why Matt is getting different results is because there are so many different variables. Like how many? I mean, have you seen spiked hail? There's disc-shaped hail. Do you know the density of the hail? There's so many variables in the natural world. The humidity affects, things. So
Yeah.
it's really
Density of the air.
scientific testing is interesting to look into because it's really learning about thresholds, it's learning about anomalies, and it's learning about variances and allowances, much rather than this is exactly what happens all the time when this happens. So
What's crazy is I'm shooting the same size hail that was frozen in the same mold at the exact same shingle, at the same distance, at the same pressure, at the same speed from the same gun in the same day. And I'm getting different sizes. So all of those variables are roughly the same. And I'm still getting different size damage profiles. Now I'm hitting the shingle at different places on the shingle. And what's different is where the rafter is. How many layers of shingle there are based on where I'm hitting the shingle. So the variable is in the placement of the hailstone on the shingle. So that's the interesting part.
There was an interesting question from Christopher. How does AI hold up in litigation?
Yeah.
Now, Remington Huggins is not with us. He's the attorney, so I cannot speak to any legal matters or what would happen in litigation. I can speak to what you might want to look into or learn about so you can tell your attorney so they can determine, or the insured's attorney so they can determine what will be helpful. But especially, like, I will try to link it after this, but I've been following AI litigation that's actually out of our industry, but it has to do with image creation. So there's a Stable Diffusion lawsuit. Actually, I like totally fangirling here. Matthew Butterick is a fantastic attorney who also has a creative brain, which is very rare. So
Matthew Broderick?
Butterick.
Oh, that's a very different guy.
Yes,
yeah.
Matthew Butterick. He's actually he has a wonderful website called Typography for Lawyers. He's actually created typography. He's a really cool guy, right? But he is one of the attorneys that is spearheading this litigation because what's happening is a commercial company. Now, some people say that it's just litigation bullying, right? But what's happening is some of the
you say litigation bullying? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
What is litigation bullying?
I'll sue you so you just get scared or don't have enough money to fight back, and then I'll get my way.
Oh, that sounds like the McKinsey model.
So, but basically, like if you use some of the image creation models, what do they use to be able to do that? Data sets. Where do the data sets come from? Public images. Where do those public images come from? Human artists. So he alleges that there is copyright infringement. But he gets into the variables of like the AI and how it, so he's proving this. But my point is, this is an example of an attorney that has really dug into the variables to really advocate for his clients. And this is a class action. So it's artists. He's really dug into the variables. So the best thing you can do is if you're not an attorney, don't be an attorney. Know what you're dealing with. Know the limitations and the variables of each tool so that you can provide any attorney with the information they might need. So how does AI hold up in litigation? AI is used as an example in meteorological reports. There's an algorithm that a lot of instant weather reports use. Now, the algorithm, again, it's not good or bad. It's just how accurate is it? What are the allowances? What goes into it? So, there are certain reports that I will never use for clients because they will not hold up in court because the algorithm is not objective or it's not as accurate as some others. Doesn't mean don't use algorithm-based reports. But, you wanted to think about that. It's just dig into and start asking those questions of each technology. So no tool is bad, but yeah.
I mean, it could give you something though, right? It gives you a third-party analysis to give you some indication something happened. If an engineer goes out on site, their job is to try to rule out as many causes as possible if they were to identify a cause of loss. They're not going to be able to say that something definitely was the cause of loss unless someone witnessed it, maybe a video. But they could have a good idea of what possibly caused something, and they can rule out causes of loss that definitely didn't cause it.
But hopefully the
AI,
data they're given
using
is
an algorithm can give you an idea of what the anomaly is likely caused by, but you would need to have an expert. Could an AI ever be considered an expert?
I have seen one case, and it was one that I flew in my previous career, and it was a 23 building complex. I did the first building, the middle building, the last building with the drone and made the reports. And they turned it in during the we call that phase in insurance where there's a magistrate, so it's not technically all the way in court, but it's the negotiation between the two parties. But the magistrate looked at the reports and said, well, this is unbiased data here, and it's finding these items as hail, and it has the tally on them based on the detailed checks or test squares, as you would call it. And they overturned the denial based on what the reports had shown for the entire complex, because of the first, middle, last building was a good indicator of all the rest of the buildings being damaged as well. But that's the only example that I have where I've seen it, so I can't speak to it in a real world situation except for just what I saw worked.
So that was really a comparison, though. So the AI proved that comparatively to one where they did approve it, it was the same as the one they approved. So why didn't they approve all of them?
Right, exactly.
Okay. So
it's interesting that they use the word
it was utilized as a tool.
Yeah, and
but if they can compare that and say you approved this one, can they do that from another property that they approved and say, as a comparison tool to this property that has damage, which is what the AI is doing with every image anyway,
right?
Then why can't it be utilized a little bit more?
That's where the other variables come into play in learning about what that AI is specifically told to be looking at, because it's just like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen this, but I've seen where you can visibly see in a neighborhood or in an industrial area where there was clearly a demarcation of hail. It literally just stopped and didn't go across the street. So it's never relying on any data as the immutable truth, right? You should be getting as much data as possible to then make an objective and fact-based opinion. So humans, this is back into the AI ethics question, and then I'll be quiet so we can answer this. Oh, yep. Absolutely. AI is always a great choice as long as we don't rely 100% on it. This is from Helmuth from LinkedIn. We can use it to help, and let's see. We can use it as help and assistance, but at the same time are adding that human touch. We need systems that save us time, while at the same time it excels on the work being done. Absolutely. I wrote an article about this on my blog for AI and drones because someone from Arkansas called me and told me that it's a story.
Did you write it, or did AI write it?
I wrote it. I actually don't use AI in my adjusting firm. Nope. I use tons of AI in my media, and I use it for other purposes. But I actually do not use any AI in my public adjusting firm on purpose. But except for like Loveland, obviously, that's different. But the main thing with the ethics is,
it was really getting heated for a second. I was
no, Loveland's cool. So that's the tool.
She added
I don't use it to write for me, if that's what people are wondering. But the main thing is humans are naturally, I don't want to say we're lazy, but just as humans, we're naturally going to go toward convenience. Now, the sacrifice that we give for convenience is typically learning atrophy and freedom. So especially with like 2 generations ago, I don't care what continent your family is from or where your ethnic origins are. 2 or 3 generations ago, every one of us, our grandparents knew how to germinate seeds and grow crops. Right? I don't know how to do that. Well, I do a little bit because my grandmother's a professor of horticulture, but most people don't know how to do that anymore because what happened? We got grocery stores. We got Instacart. So we flocked to that convenience, and as a result, we sacrificed that communal knowledge. So it's really important to think about those things in the ethics of AI, to make sure that you are purposefully teaching yourself things, so that ChatGPT went out last week. So many people were screwed because they've been using it completely for work. They're stranded.
Kristen,
but anyone who still uses their brain and can do their work without ChatGPT kept trucking. So it's important.
ChatGPT can be frustrating at times anyway. If you can't, it'll be exciting when it can access the internet. Once it can access
it can.
Well,
I have access to GPT-4 and the model that can access it.
GPT-4 can access the internet?
Yeah, so I have developer access through my media company. So I got access as soon as it was available to the tier 2 developers. And shortly after it was released to us, when they released the API, it now can connect to the internet. So it can update itself. Like ChatGPT-4 does not know who the American Policyholder Association is, but it does now because it has access to the internet.
I've been wondering how you were able to get that post.
I have developer access. Yeah.
All right. So, that makes sense. That makes sense. Mm-hmm. So we can't, not everybody can get that though. You need developer access. Do you think when it becomes public, the public version will be able to access the internet?
Yeah, it will. Right now though, you do have to pay now though. You have to pay for ChatGPT Pro as well as any API calls that you want to do if you want to bring it to an external interface for you devs out there. And the other thing too is that ChatGPT 4, so many public adjusters have messaged me like, can I use this for claims? Don't do that. No. It fails miserably. There are quite a few attorneys on LinkedIn that have tested it for claims and asked it questions about case law. Fails miserably.
Oh God,
just don't do that.
It has.
Don't use ChatGPT for claims, please.
I have fed this thing my own notes from investigations that I've done for expert reports and asked it to simplify my notes because my notes are way too detailed. And I'm just trying to write an expert report quickly. And I'm thinking, I'm going to try this thing out. And it spits out something that's very simplified. And my immediate reaction is I'm going to copy paste this thing. It is simplified. And then I'm going to start reviewing it. And there are certain things in here that aren't quite accurate. And I go back to it and I say, please review your notes from building 2 again. And then, of course, it spits back and says, there is no building 2. What are you talking about? Or something along those lines. And
God, you have to fine tune your own model if you really want to make sure that it can do what you need it to do.
It's a terrifying thing because if you can't get it just right, it's going to fail you, and it'll lie to you sometimes. I don't know if it's lying to me or if I didn't prompt it quite right or if it's just dropping some information along the way. It's probably dropping information along the way because there isn't enough. I put too much information in, so it has to, I've got this much information. Let me shorten this up so it can hold this much information in, and I put this much in. And as I put this much information in and it adds in its stuff, now it has to lose some of it. It's kind of like my brain when I learn something new. I have to drop something out of it, like my kid's birthday.
The free version that most people are using is actually limited to a set number of characters. So that's
why. Saying the paid version of ChatGPT 4 can put the entire policy in.
You have more characters. I watched the developer stream live when it was released. You can watch it on YouTube now, but I watched it live, and I watched a dude throw in 17 pages of IRS tax code, and it handled it I was like, holy cow, it wrote code, and he threw it into, I mean, it was amazing. The code worked. He was like, write me, make me a form. It was amazing. The only thing is ChatGPT 4 and 3.5 and 3.5 Turbo are bad at math. Also, don't use ChatGPT for math, people. It fails. So it's kind of scary. But yeah, it's one of those things too. I want people to learn about this. I am going to be doing a paid webinar about this in the future for those that really want to take a deep dive with me. It's really important to know that ChatGPT is the one you're probably familiar with, but there's many, many, many more on the market. But yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
like the
we have
Bing
about
one.
10.
You should play with Bing for
the
sure.
Bing one, oh my gosh,
It's
did you
messed
guys
up.
see that one? It was like questioning its existence. So it got danned, which means do
I'm
anything
questioning
now.
my existence right now because of Skylar's comment. Well done, Thomas and Sarah. I appreciate and love your insight.
Thank you, Skylar.
Chopped liver.
Sorry, Matt. So I think
about
we have a
Bing.
few minutes left here. Can we like turbo through some of the questions? I don't want to leave anyone without their questions being
Actually,
answered.
Tristan had a good question that Thomas might be able to answer for us. I would assume that AI report would be more ethical than biased. Any tips or ideas to get around an adjuster that's just refusing to acknowledge a report?
Okay, so this is like an adjusting question. It's interesting.
Yeah, you're gonna have that, just like any provider out there may or may not accept certain things, but the AI report is your own eyes confirming and denying, what it has found as the anomaly. So you are still providing that human interaction, that human factor to it, and it's a tool that speeds up that report building process. So instead of circling everything with chalk and taking the picture with your phone and then putting it into a PDF builder and then making your notes and spending hours doing that, the system is just saying, hey, here's what I see. You can double click and add more. You can remove some of it, confirm it, deny it, and it's putting those marks on it like chalk. And you can put your notes on the page here. I'm going to show the GPS location of where that picture was taken, and I'm going to show you that particular facet with all of the hits on it, and we're going to highlight 4 of these as a close-up to showcase that this complete edition of hits is legitimate based on what your eyes are seeing. So when you're turning it in, it's just, hey, this is my damage assessment, this is my report. You don't have to necessarily say, oh, the computer did it for me, because it didn't. You're still providing your input on those.
But I think this comes into like a super classic adjusting question, because I think Tristan, I'm assuming it means they won't even like look at it or consider it as something to be factored into the claim. In that case, that thing we talked about the other day, try that. It's on the United Policyholders and APA website. I'll send them to you, but you just go over their head to management and make sure you send it to them instead, because there's nothing you can do.
If they're refusing to look at anything that's legitimate, then that's not exactly a good faith claim practice of any kind.
Yeah.
I mean, if they would have to say that this is illegitimate and they'd have to explain why. If you're using this as proof or evidence to prove the loss, falls in their court to then disprove it, unless they've already done so. So if this isn't enough evidence to prove the loss and they've already disproven it, then that's something else. So maybe that's the issue that you have, but I kind of doubt it.
I think they're just straight up ignoring it.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Kind of like Skylar and ignoring the fact that I'm still standing here.
And for anyone else too, as a viewer myself, usually of podcasts and lives, if we don't get to your question today, Thomas and I, just over the next couple of days, we'll try to hit them up in the comments on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. So feel free to drop them in for a day or two yet, and we'll try to get to you.
Eric says, what percentage of claims adjusting staff could be eliminated with drones and AI?
Ideally, I feel like 100% is what they're going for.
Well,
no, you couldn't.
It's a tool for them to get through the quicker. because I've met with a lot of adjusters that utilize us, and they said that they've gone from a 14-day average to getting to a claim, process to a 9-day average. So instead of seeing this huge list and a cat storm in front of them, like, how am I going to get to these? They're increasing their efficiency and their production rate. They're actually making more money, getting more done in a shorter period of time. There's over 50,000 drones in use for just insurance purposes, and that's according to FinTech. And 17% of all commercial drone use is by property insurance. We've seen 137% growth in the past 2 years, just based on the pandemic. So I think it's actually going to extend the life of an adjuster, help them be more efficient, more productive, and get things done quicker, which in turn makes the homeowner or the property owner, a lot more satisfied with their experience.
Did you guys see the JD Power survey on digital claims handling?
No.
It's been tanked 2 years in a row. People are not happy about how it's so. I think the question is not should AI be used in claims, it's how. I feel like Loveland is one of the good factors, right? The positive, more reliable factors for sure is Loveland's drone technology, in my personal opinion. But then there's some other places where the reason why I wrote an article on AI mobile inspections and mobile inspections in general in the first place is because what happens is if the AI is just letting it run on itself and there's no human keeping an eye on it for when there are variables that the AI shouldn't be handling, that's where the issues arise. And so I want cost savings for insurance companies. I want insurance companies, staff to be less stressed out. It's a good thing. But how it's been implemented in some areas is clearly impacting at least customer satisfaction, which was measured by the JD Power survey. So something's wrong.
Well, it's just like the self-driving cars, objectively, less accidents.
Oh my Lord. Have you guys seen?
People don't want it because they feel like it's going to be more. So it could just be a feelings issue.
Well, no, there's other issues with the self-driving cars. People that are of some Asian or Southeast Asian descent, the car, because the AI was trained, again, you have to go off the data set that the AI was trained on.
Comment?
It's not racist. It's just physical characteristics. It's nothing to do with race. They think that people of that descent who have more of the almond, eyes, that they think they're asleep when they're not.
Oh, it tells them that they have to wake up?
Yes. And they're just sitting there in the vehicle. Yeah. So there are other issues. The AI and the self-driving cars is running people over. Again, I follow all this stuff. It's running people over in San Francisco. They had to stop the pilot of the Tesla one.
Because it feels like it's got to save the occupant of the vehicle, and it will have to kill the person that's on the street in order to save the occupant of the vehicle first.
I do not know why it failed, but it's hurting people. And then like the self-driving technology where it's supposed to measure impaired driving is the one where people of Southeast Asian descent, it thinks that they're sleeping because of how their eyes are made.
Okay. And so interesting.
That's why I'm saying learn the variables.
Didn't know that.
AI is not perfect.
I'm trying really hard not to laugh for the next 2 minutes. But also, I'm just going to keep trying. Well, also,
I mean, the irony is there. It doesn't mean that you're laughing at people of that.
It's ironic. Irony is funny, and that's okay.
The irony is just like
that's
really
okay. But I think that there might, and I'm going to look at it. I'm open-minded, but I think that objectively there probably is still less accidents proportionally than human drivers looking at their cell phones. Thank you, Tristan. By the way, I don't think that drones will take over all of the inspections, especially wind, until they have an articulating finger on them. So, because you can't see all the damages caused by wind, you cannot see shingles that have been ripped up off of nails, for example, or shingles that have, or tiles that have buffeted to the point that they have loosened the nails without being able to physically manipulate those. It's impossible to see that. Drones can't physically see that because there's nothing optically to see until you manipulate the shingles. So that's not going to be removed completely, which takes care of that one. It would be a reduction. I think that you could handle hail claims. You don't necessarily need to touch shingles for hail claims. I think that most of that is going to be visible.
AI is going to create more specialists than it is completely eliminating things in our world.
Yeah, our goal is not to just make it easier for them.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So you're going to be, as a human, we're all going to be forced to be more specialized. Again, fourth industrial revolution, maybe. We're going to be forced to be more specialized, even more than we already are. Because most humans used to be generalists. We could do all kinds of things. Then the Industrial Revolution happened. We did one job. Now we're going to have to be specialized even more because AI is going to do all the simple stuff. It's going to do all the general stuff. So it won't eliminate everything, but it will change a lot.
It's going to make all of us actually special.
The opinions on this podcast are not necessarily.
It's like I want to prove that Skylar is right, that I have nothing good to offer. Yeah. Yeah. Can using a drone be better than climbing a roof for inspections in certain scenarios? Yes.
Yep. Absolutely. Not only for safety, but even lighting, all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
Right.
Angle. Yeah. How many times have you been on a roof, like asphalt shingle roof, and like you just look at the angle differently or whatever, or the sun is directly on it, but then not on it, and you see certain things. Yeah, there's lots of advantages.
Very true for metal roofs too. A lot of metal inspections, if you were to walk on those, you take away your ability to see a lot of the spatter by walking on it because you're removing the spatter by walking on it. And leaving little streak marks behind with your shoes that aren't just going to go away. So you're making an eyesore for people. So drone inspection for metal, very, very useful, even if you can walk on it.
It's almost like preservation of evidence.
It is very good. Very nice.
That's a good point, because when you use a drone, you can't be accused of vandalizing a roof.
Mm-hmm. There's no tampering, no vandalization, nothing.
Just drill the roof with the drone like hardcore. Yeah.
But then you'd see propeller marks.
I have a feeling I'm going to get accused of vandalizing roofs a lot over the next year with this hail gun. You won't have to bag your own groceries. This self-checkout will just make it easier for the employees.
Yeah, the learning curve is lowered on that because, how many times do you have to have somebody go with a new employee and learn what to look for? At least, before you get them a drone, they can use the handheld and take pictures from the top of the ladder and see what the AI is indicating as the damage, and then review it with the supervisor to learn a lot easier on what you're looking for.
And keep in mind, too, as convenience rules us humans, even when AI does kind of take up a lot of space, let's say, there are still going to be people that prefer a human touch on purpose. Now, what's going to happen? Remember, specialization, it just means that the price of certain services are going to go up. So nothing will go away, but I would argue possibly that those of us that take the effort to specialize and be better at educating ourselves are going to be smarter, because we're going to have a higher threshold than the generalization that AI provides. It'll be interesting.
We'd have to be smarter than the
white collar, like a step above white collar now,
Right, bleached collar. That's what we should start calling it.
Exactly, bleached, starched,
bleached collar.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We're going to cut out the lab coat.
Yes, exactly.
Lab coat. Currently, you cannot hack an adjuster's brain without good beer, which is a great comment. Disagree though, but AI can be hacked.
Yes, AI is not unbiased. There's no such thing as unbiased AI. It can be darn close, but that's why, for you attorneys out there, if you have any questions about AI in your matters, ask for the data set that it was trained on.
No such thing as unbiased AI, and that's because someone has still programmer, and that
There's
programmer has some bias because they're trying to get to a specific result.
Yep. When you
or
learn
someone has identified what something is or isn't, and they have bias, and they've taught this machine to do it in that way. Can they ever become unbiased eventually? What if you had opposing sides teach it?
I mean, so it's really important to be, so when you're creating AI, so this is how I learned when I first learned how to create AI, there is no such thing as completely unbiased AI, just as much as there's no such thing as one completely unbiased person. So you have to really stick to principles rather than saying something is or is not accurate. So when you're actually building data sets, you have to be very careful to log every reason why you're putting something in a data set. You have to prove the objectivity of the selection of and the actual data set used. And then apart from that, you actually, like, I suggest that anyone who's learning prompt building to create AI take critical thinking courses on how to get rid of bias. There's many kinds. Cognitive bias, confirmation bias. There's many kinds, and every human is susceptible to it. So the more that you can use principles to guide you and get rid of your human self, kind of set those things aside and really utilize critical thinking, that will guide you best to be creating the AI to mirror that, if that makes sense. Because AI is created by humans. So the humans making them need to be very careful.
All right, last question, and then we're cutting the questions off because we're over time. Maybe with drones and AI carriers may actually conduct an underwriting inspection.
I would love that, to be
That's
honest.
actually a pretty cool idea.
That'd be super dope. Underwriters start using drones. Agents, they'll save you guys so much money. I would love that. It'd make everyone's job easier.
Those chargebacks on your commission. You won't lose your agency bonus. You'll have baseline data proving pre-loss condition. Well, that's a fantastic idea.
Yep. As a public adjuster, I'm for it.
Yeah.
Baseline information is what we should have had this entire hour about. And maybe we invite you back out to talk about baseline information. That is a very important topic, actually. I'm going to fix whatever is doing this to my camera because I look like I must be an AI. This is terrible.
Yeah. Your avatar is fantastic.
It's killing me. I don't know what this is. I even tried a different browser this time. I'm using Internet or Microsoft Edge. That's how low I've stooped to try to fix this shit.
Yeah.
And it didn't even start until like 2 minutes in. I don't know what it is. So Peter says hi. Peter loves you, Tommy.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. It's awesome.
Thank you for joining us for today's episode of Listen to This Bull Live, the show where you get to control us as if we're AI. We appreciate you being on, Tommy. And thank you guys for watching. If you guys get a lot out of this show, please consider supporting us. Go to Listen to This Bull Live. Take a look at the merchandise. We got shirts like this thing. We got beer mugs. If you want to drink a beer during the show like I do, I'm having a milk chocolate porter today. It was delicious. It's the first beer I've had all week because I've been sick as a dog. Thanks for co-hosting and being a part of this, Sarah. I know we didn't get to talk about Kuva Media too much because AI is a very big part of this. If you guys are interested, Kuva Media has some really cool shit going on. Like, they are a sassy company. And you should find out what that means. Because
sassy, S-A-A-S.
Cool. It's pretty cool. They are a sassy company. And some of the stuff that they are about to get going and doing is pretty sweet. And I'll share some stuff that she's about to post. But I'd like to have you on again just to talk about that alone at some point, if we can. Maybe next week, actually.
There's some cool stuff that you guys have never seen in media. Yeah, it'll be nice. I think you'll like it.
I don't have anybody lined up for next week anyway, so let's just do that. Nice. Sarah, 2 weeks in a row. How badass can that be? I'm hoping that I can have a smooth video feature for that one. I don't know. This is kind of cool. All right. So I'll see you guys next Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern. Hopefully Remington, which apparently we can all call Remy from now on because Sarah let the cat out of the bag.
I just call
All
him
right.
that. Sorry. It's Remington Huggins, everyone.
definitely
Mr.
Remy.
Huggins, Esquire.
Only his
to you.
friends call him Remy. So let's all call him that. I'll see you guys next week.